Good morning, Neil.
Good morning.
I'm so happy to have you on this episode of the Oasis Show. You and I became Facebook friends just through, another acquaintance or another friend that we both have. And I've kind of been following you along kind of informally. But I wanted to, the first thing that stuck out to me was the name of your company, Insight.
Okay. Yes.
Because I just thought that was just a great name. But can you tell our viewers just a little bit about who is Neil Burchill and what is Insight?
Okay. First and foremost, I'm a nutritionist. I've been a nutritionist for as long as I can remember. Even I spent some time in the military. I was in the military for about 10 years and then moved on and was a full-time firefighter. I found that this always kind of followed me. I'd sit with, individuals within the EMO room and talk about nutrition and increasing the quality of their performance. I always wanted to be that guy that was in any type of emergency situation and be the guy that I would want to be there. So physically, psychologically, I always needed to know that I could put forth the effort needed to do whatever was necessary in order to turn the outcome around, right? I couldn't control whether or not things were going on, but I could, and I had more leverage on how they played out. And this is something that I bring to my my business as well. So really, it's just one of these things that has been innocuous. It's always been around me. I've always practiced it. I've always talked about it to some degree. And I never really saw the business aspect of it. It was just a passion for me. And, you hear from a lot of entrepreneurs, that's how it starts. They develop the passion first and then they find a way to monetize it. So this is where I was. And then in the fire department, I was working part-time for a great company called Simply for Life. Simply for Life originated in St. John, just out in Quispam, more towards just outside of Quispam. Anyway, so the gentleman, the founder, and myself, we used to work out of the basement of his house, and there was something there. So within a few years, I purchased the franchise rights to Fredericton and had opened 3 franchises and had gone full tilt. And we'd expanded to, I think at that point, we had 36 franchises across Canada.
Wow.
And so that kind of evolved. And then, things took place. I ran those franchises, in particular Fredericton, for almost 12 years. And then had sold those and then developed my my business now known as Insight, which is kind of a refined version of that and a come to you version. So really it's just an online presence for people that want to know more about nutrition, want to improve the quality of their life through nutrition, lifestyle, and their environment. So basically how everything kind of fits together. And it's an empowerment tool. It's teaching people what it is that they need to do to achieve what it is that they want to achieve instead of telling them what it is that they should be achieving. Right. So it's a labor of love. I absolutely love it. And I do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you approach me in any social environment, typically we'll talk about nutrition in some way, shape, or form. It's who I am. And a lot of entrepreneurs really need to, be okay with that. Entrepreneurship is very, very different in that regard, where you are what you preach and you preach what you are.
And I think that, I am, my new labor of love is really, talking about these unlikely entrepreneurs. When we think about it, when we hear the word entrepreneur, when I say the word entrepreneur, like I grew up with my dad was a trucker, right? And he was never an entrepreneur. He was a trucker. But looking back on it now, he was an entrepreneur. But, so when you hear the word entrepreneur, you think, big time, millions of dollars. They must have had $1 million in order to start this company. But, it's the people like yourself who, the passion was there, and you just looked at that opportunity and said, well, how can I help people with the knowledge that I have?
Right.
Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. It's seeing the niche, you know what I mean? Like, and eventually you find the square peg, or the square hole that fits the square peg. And there's a lot of people out there that are sacrificing and I see this. I see people, like, even in terms of nutrition and fitness, they're following other people's trends, trying to do what other people are doing better instead of doing it differently, doing it their way. So a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of not knowing what it is or who it is they are or what they're offering first. And they can spend a lot of time and a lot of money, or waste a lot of time. And it's not necessarily waste. I mean, you need to find out who you are sometimes through a process of finding out who you're not, but you can expedite that process the faster you come to terms with what it is who it is you are and what it is you're good at, and whether or not who it is that you are and what you're good at, if there's a demand for that.
Right, right. So when you look at, your life of even going back to, being in the military, and so you've always seemed to have that, that mindset was always kind of inside you, because you would just have that time to help people and, to offer their advice. But why not go another way? Why not, just go work for someone else? What drove you to kind of want to be your own boss and to start something for yourself?
I don't know. Like, honestly, it was just not really always questioning orders, or always thinking that, what, I could do this better. I've always been a bit of a, if you can't do it right, or if you want it done right, do it yourself type individual. So I'd see other people do, there's tons of nutritional businesses and companies and things like that out there, but an entrepreneur looks at those and doesn't berate or belittle those things, but sees the quirks and the cracks and says, you know what, I could do this differently. I could do this better. Right. And in doing it differently, you do it better. Like, it's about the purest entrepreneur is very individual and it tends to be eccentric, and those eccentricities, they develop over time. There's a really cool quote by Thomas Edison, and it's, I didn't make 10,000 mistakes. I learned how to not do it 10,000 times, or, 10,000 different ways.
Right.
So, it's what the military and the fire service taught me was that there's so many different ways to get the job done. Like, I'd pull onto an accident scene and, a lot of people would just be overwhelmed. Whereas even in that kind of situation, an entrepreneur or someone who sees possibilities where others see problems, you start to identify what I like to call as the purchase point, where, okay, you know what? Yes, this is all going on, but I see this opportunity to optimize this, to turn this into something spectacular, to change the outcome. And really, it's being able to identify those purchase points out here in society. Like, we have some incredible people that are, paralyzed in regards to paralysis by analysis. They see these opportunities, but then they miss them because they hesitate too long, and they have too many questions before they just decide, you know what, I'm going to kick the door open and see what's on the other side.
Yeah, that's very
true.
And
that's what the military and the fire department taught me was, there comes a point where action and mood follows action. And if I know that there's a life struggling on the other side of that door, I don't have much time to think about, how things are going to play out on the other side before I make that first move. I just need to have faith in myself and kick the door open and then figure it out on the other side. And, it typically 99% of the time it worked out. So how I look at my life is on the other side of that door. And if I see an opportunity to help someone or help my family, in regards to, earn a living, have some freedom, be able to make the choices that benefit me as opposed to benefit, the people above me. Those types of things really started to resonate with me as I developed. And that's why I like making my own decisions, setting my own hours, and whether or not I blossom or I, falter is typally it's on my shoulders, and I can carry that. It's liberating.
It's such a, it really is a concept that I think that, with everything going on, with COVID-19 and people having to go home to work. And I think now, it's really becoming a conversation of, the typical business setting, the typical office setting now has, in order for us to continue to do business, things have to change. So, it's being able to, to really use, that entrepreneurial mindset as a skill set, to you know, for employees, but also employers. But you know, I believe, and I think it's the World Forum that says entrepreneurial mindset is a key 21st century skill. Like for people, we need to understand how that mindset works. Now, and for you, it sounds like, you know, you wanted that choice and that freedom. Where, like, at what point did that switch? I know it's similar to my last question, but at what point did that switch come on that you were like, I'm going for it, I'm just going to do it, and this, you know, I'm going to make my own. I'm going to make my own wealth. I'm going to make my own choice. I'm going to make my, you know, take my passion and make it my own. At what point did that switch for you?
Well, it switched at multiple points, but the first point was the fact that I just didn't want anybody else running my life. Like, this is my masterpiece. I'm only going to get one kick at this. And to operate under someone else's jurisdiction and hours and this and that, I'm not a big, and I find this a common trait within entrepreneurs. It's gray. Like, they live a very gray life, where not gray in the bleak sense, but gray in the lack of black and white, good and bad, right or wrong. There's always loopholes there. It's a very creative space. There's a lot of pressure. It's not easy. But again, you know, you don't do something incredible looking for easy. You look at it as it's a cost benefit analysis. It's the reward from it. And, you know, I put my head to my pillow every night. I feel fantastic. If my day was an up or down day, you know, again, that falls on me. It's typically, and those days, the down days, I learn an incredible amount of about myself and about other people. You know, and it's not for everybody. You know, I worked with people that enjoy just being able to go home and forget about their day, right? Being an entrepreneur, you can't do that. I really like being involved. And when you're passionate about something that you're doing, it's really, literally, and I know this sounds cliche, but you never really work a day in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, when we have these filters, right? And I think it was, you know, one of our mentors in St. John, Elaine Shannon, she talks about filters and, you know, when we have our filter, and if that filters freedom, or if that filters flexibility, or, you know, you're filtering everything through there. So, you know, if everything comes through that filter, what you get on the other end, you know, shouldn't feel like work, right? It just should feel like accomplishments or learned experiences, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You don't fail as an entrepreneur. You learn. And that's something that, you know, that I've learned over my many failures. And, you know, I look forward to the next failure, because it means that I'm one step closer, and that's one more failure out of the way. So whether it's 10 or 10,000, you know, I'm up for the challenge, just like swinging a bat.
Right. So what would you say would be, you know, I believe in the importance of community. You know, I believe in the importance of reaching out and surrounding yourself with people who will tell you like it is, and that you can always rely on, you know, picking up the phone and calling someone saying, I have this crazy idea, what do you think? And having them be truthful. What do you think was one of the most important piece of advice that you've ever gotten?
Don't give up. That, honestly, that's it. Because as an entrepreneur, you need to be incredibly tenacious. So it's like looking at athletes. Like, I have a nephew that just got drafted to the NBA. And you look at the sacrifices and things like this that he makes, but that's the external viewpoint. Whereas he's not looking at it as sacrificing, he's looking at it as an investment. So it's really just, you know, perspective, and to be incredibly tenacious. You know, every time you reach an impasse, it's a test, and it's testing you as to how badly you want to get to the other side of that door. So really, I mean, that was the advice that was given to me. It's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be overnight, right? And those that have had overnight success, typically it doesn't sustain. Like, it's not sustainable. And what I do is taught me a lot in regards to weight loss. People that lose weight easily typically have it back on within, you know, a short period of time, because they didn't earn the right to be able to maintain it.
Right.
You know, and so there's a lot of parallels to what I do for people, and listening to their feedback, and actually listening to what I say. There's a lot of good people out there that have incredible insight, but they don't listen to themselves. They'll listen to other people with, you know, these acronyms before their names or these accreditations that are regurgitating other people's insight instead of actually drawing from their own experiences. And there's a lot of parallels. I do a lot of teaching in parallels. I use a lot of analogies. I've actually got they're called analogies, my clients, because that's how I teach, you know, put it into context that they can understand, because information without comprehension is useless.
Right.
So really a lot of issues that I've come up against, and one of the biggest pieces of advice is listen to your gut, listen to yourself, and be persistent. Don't back down because someone else has a different viewpoint, or someone tells you, Neil, that's never going to work. You know, there's no money in coffee, right? Right, that's a fame. I bet you whoever said that to Tim Horton is really turning over on his or his or her grave right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so important, because it's just so easy in this crazy, you know, global, you know, economy, or this just crazy world that we're living in. It's just so important to say, well, that didn't work, I'm going to go over here. And it's to have that resilience to, and we've seen that this past year, of the incredible resilience of, you know, and I'm sure you thought that as well, when all of a sudden, you know, you couldn't train face to face, you couldn't talk to people face to face, and for probably a short amount of time, you probably thought, well, that's it for me, right? And it's to be able to say, how can I work in this new world?
Right,
So,
the cream rises to the top, right?
Right. So what's next for you? So what's your, you know, I mean, besides, you know, your day in, day out, you know, running of Insight, you know, what's your, you know, what's next for you and for Insight? Is it
for me, I try not to project, because again, like, it's, for me, it's more organic. I just kind of go where I'm at that stage now, where I go where the energy flows. So if, you know, right now I've got, I'm going to be working with a group of people, off reserve Aboriginal populations and things like this. So I go where I'm like the littlest hobo. I just go where I'm needed at this point and just see how things, but again, being an entrepreneur, you go into those situations and you see the possibilities there. So, okay, there's a purchase point. And if you do this properly and you go in with the right attitude and you make the connections and the relationships, all of a sudden things blossom from that point. And there's a difference between nurturing and forcing. You know, when people force weight loss, the body tends to fight against it. It's done under duress, right? It's a dictatorship, not a relationship. Where with me and my perspective on entrepreneurship, and it's more just organic. It's creating these relationships and just kind of going with the flow, so that you're not forcing anything prematurely. Because I've done that. I've been to the point where, you know, I didn't have a lot of money. I needed to make things happen. And there's a saying, you know, when you focus on results, change doesn't take place. But when you focus on change, you get results. So that's the thing. I focus on the possibility and the opportunity. So as things start to change, and I'm constantly aware of growth opportunities, I'll jump at that. But I try not to preempt too much, because then I could bite onto something or grab a hold of something that I'm not ready for. And, you know, I've been that dog chasing the car a few times where I caught the car and I was totally unprepared for it.
Right. Or it wasn't the car that you wanted.
Right, exactly.
And it cost you more than you were, you know, that you wanted. So
let's just say it. I got run over. Right. So, and I mean, and that itself is like, you know, a fantastic piece of advice, right? Because so often, you know, I equate it to playing whack-a-mole at the old Crystal Palace, right? Something's popping up and you're just whacking it down, right? Because you're just there and you're just grabbing anything, reacting, yeah.
And, you know, instead of being more methodical and looking at it, you know, through a different lens. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm so glad I got to have a chance to chat with you. And I look forward to more conversations with you. I would like to end with, we're going into, you know, a stressful season of, you know, Christmas and, you know, lockdowns and different colors of zones.
Who knows? Right.
And, you know, normally in January is the time when I used to say that, you know, when I go to the gym in January, I'm still having my old grubby, you know, workout clothes on, and you see everybody coming in with their fancy brand new, you know, still tags on, you know, But what is your advice? Can we just take a minute just to talk about, you know, your advice on moving forward and how to keep people well, you know, in this upcoming season, and, you know, just in a time where there's just so many stressors and just everyone seems to be on high alert?
Good. No, you're speaking the language, and the best advice that I can give, and I actually posted a video to the community. I've got a private community that I post to, and we create this safe environment where people can talk about, you know, health issues and concerns and things like this, and I address them, and I've got other experts in their fields in there, so it's kind of this village, so to speak. But anyway, I posted on this because I'm feeling the nuances as every year at this point where people feel apprehensive about the holidays. And ideally, like, there's a couple points that I'd like to make. Is there's 365 days a year. All right. So when you look at the holidays, legitimate holidays throughout the year, you're looking at maybe, 25 tops. So then that leaves you with 340 days. So really the question is that if you're feeling apprehensive about your holiday, it typically means that you've really just not done your due diligence through the other 340 days. So I suggest you start focusing on them and enjoy your holidays. And the enjoyment of the holidays, what COVID is teaching us is that we don't have control over much, but what we do, we've tended to neglect it. So relationships and things like this, that's the holidays give us the opportunity to celebrate our hard work. So if you're feeling guilty about celebrating, it's typically, again, goes back to the fact that you didn't put the work in to be able to celebrate that, because health, like finance, you can't take it with you. So it's kind of looking at that in perspective. If you go through the holidays and you live it well, you enjoy every moment, you're present and mindful, you'll find that it will give you the impetus to work harder. As an entrepreneur, that's one of the biggest things is, when I go home at the end of the day, when I have time to, go to my kids' recitals and be there for them and, put food on the table and lights on, it gives me that sense of pride that makes me get up. I get up at 4:30 every single morning, and I'm online and I work, throughout the day. Some moments of the days, and some days are a lot more intense than others. And then I'm usually in bed by 10, 11 o'clock at night, but I'm able to, when I put the phone down, when I'm offline, I'm able to really enjoy myself because I've found that balance. I've worked hard, play hard. So over the holiday, I really suggest people go in and they enjoy it. And a lot of the issues that people come across when they're in the holiday season is they start to consume out of guilt. Well, I shouldn't be drinking this bottle of wine, so I'm just going to drink it all and get it over with. Or I shouldn't be eating this cake or pie, so I'm going to eat the whole thing. And then I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work it off and I'm going to diet it off. So effectively what's happening is they're missing the point. So now they're begrudging the 340 days. So you go to work and you hate it because of what you did over the holiday. You know what I mean? And with exercise and nutrition, your body learns to hate exercise if it sees it as punishment, right? Don't punish your body for something that your mind has done. So if you've eaten 6 pieces of pizza and, 6 beer and half of a cake, and then you go to the gym and you punish your body and you exercise, trying to, literally in the biblical sense, you're trying to exercise the demons. Your body is going to develop a very negative emotion towards that. And you're going to find that it may last a couple weeks, but just like a job that you hate, where you're going to the mundane 9 to 5 and you're just clocking in and clocking out and life is meaningless, you're eventually going to quit. You're going to move on. Something's going to happen. When your body looks at exercise and eating good, nutritious food in that same context, it's going to look for creative ways to prevent that from happening. Meaning, 3 weeks later, 3 months later, you're not going to the gym, or you get sick and you miss a couple of days and you find it very hard to go back and be physically active, or you've quote unquote fallen off your diet and you find it really hard to get back on. When you have a really good mindset and a very good balance in your life, those removals from that behavior, it only helps you enjoy that behavior that much more. That the saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So over the holidays, when you're eating and drinking and staying up late, you're almost looking forward to getting back into the routine of it when you have a healthy routine. And again, what I love to do, I love Mondays. Mondays, Gary Vee says it, Monday's my Friday. I can't wait to get back online, touch base with my clients, get into the routine of the Monday through Friday. And the weekend, the fact that I don't have the same routine on the weekend, it affords me that flexibility, that ability to step outside of the Monday through Friday and see how much I actually love it. Whereas if it all was linear and I worked 7 days a week, I'd end up hating it all. It's human nature. You just end up, begrudging it because of the sheer just homeostasis of it, the every day.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I've been having these conversations, you know, with family or with friends, and, you know, I embarked on a journey this year, and my theme was find joy in each day. And, you know, when we talk about this, you know, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to go shopping next week, and, you know, we can't do our annual trips to the States this year, and, you know, we can't, you know, we're not going to be able to see family, you know, but, you know, so if we get back to that and just, you know, having that little piece, like you say, you know, flipping it around and saying, instead of spending all this time on this section of dates, you know, spread it out. And then that way it's not so, and it's not so overwhelming when all of a sudden someone says, you can't visit or you can't go, right? It doesn't seem like such a big punishment. So
no, because it's, you know, not all of your eggs are in one basket, and people are continuously looking for answers and hacks and things like this. Drink more water, do this, do that, but no one's thinking outside of the box and saying, hey, listen, why don't you enjoy your holiday? It's 1 week, right? You've got 52. So I bet you if you just went and enjoyed your holiday, and you'd go in and, you know, with the New Year's resolutions and things like this, to be able to go in with a clear conscience and saying, you know what, I want to earn the next holiday. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to do all the work because, I don't know, Easter's right around the corner. So I'm going to prepare myself for Easter. And this is it. Like a true entrepreneur prepares themselves for the down times. I'm going to work and I'm going to make hay while the sun shines, because I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So COVID-19, honestly, it doesn't surprise me one bit that the entrepreneurs are really rising to the top, the true entrepreneurial spirit, because of the fact we just see this as, okay, you know what? This is another day at the office. You know, so many of us out there were forced to adapt. And what's brought us as human beings to the top of the food chain is not because we're bigger, better, or stronger than anything else that walks the planet. It's our ability to adapt, to see the environment the way it is and look for that purchase point. How am I going to make this work for me? So the holidays are every year, right? We eat every day. I'm 47 years of age. I've eaten every day for 47 years. So if I wake up tomorrow and I'm caught with my pants down, not knowing what I'm going to eat, then there's something fishy about that. And what that indicates is just my perception, my perspective is off. So I think people need to really embrace and enjoy their holidays, especially in this time where we've seen how important human connection is in terms of our health, mentally and physically. And let's embrace these holidays and really enjoy them. And then let's look forward to going back to work. Let's look forward to getting back into the office, having structured food intake, drinking adequate water, getting exercise in anticipation of really letting loose on the next holiday. And that's the entrepreneurial spirit. Work hard, play hard.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I think that's a great note to leave it on. I wish you a wonderful holiday if I'm not talking to you you know, before the holidays, and I wish you a great 2021. No one knows what it's going to bring, but I'm sure it'll bring lots of fun and exciting challenges. But I really appreciate having the conversation with you today. I've learned a lot, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Take care.